questions we wrestle with as Christians about who God is, how do we live out our faith, what is the Bible, what is the truth of the Bible, what are we supposed to believe, how are we supposed to live? There are really big, deep questions that we ask each other, that we ask God, that we wrestle with ourselves. And that's why the Cultivate podcast exists, to help us go deeper in our understanding of who God is, His Word, and the way that He's called us to live. Hey everyone, welcome to the Cultivate podcast, the Grove Church. I'm Charlie Lofton. I'm the lead pastor there, and I'm here with
Bagel.
Abigail Boone.
That has like an update. Bagel. Yeah.
Got your laptop out?
Yes. This is my new important. I was actually telling someone recently.
It looks more professional than just kind of looking at your phone.
I know. Well, see, here's the thing. I have lived in Fayetteville for about 11, 12 years now. Okay. I think 11. In that time, I've slowly made the adulting steps of getting my own hairdresser here, getting a dentist here, yada, yada, yada. I still haven't gotten an eye doctor here. And so I've had this same prescription for probably too long. And I'm really starting to hit the point where I need bigger print. And it's not because I'm old. It's just because I haven't taken the adult step to get a new eye appointment. So
your eyes are getting worse, which means you're getting older.
Yeah.
But I won't go see an eye doctor, which means I'm still a kid.
You said yes. But I did finally set up eye insurance.
Okay.
So I'm getting there.
All right.
It just took me about 11 years to get to that point. You probably have daughters that are in similar scenarios.
I do have daughters.
It's just hard to adult, you know?
I understand. It's a difficult transition.
It is a difficult, long one.
Yes. It's a little bit easier if you kind of immediately get married in that. And you can
I did not have that privilege.
Some forced adulting.
Yeah. Still have my same last name. All that stuff. Yep. Just don't have an eye
now
doctor.
Dad's local, so it's like...
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
That has been a big upgrade. I now don't have to go to the car place to get stuff with my car. Just like, hey, Craig, something's going on.
Call your dad Craig?
In some of those moments. Crazy Craig, Peg, one of those.
All right, Q&As, ecclesiology.
Speaking of family, this was a question that I hadn't even really thought of until my parents started coming up here more often, but I definitely grew up in a town where there were only, this may not be the right way to say it, but denomination churches. There was no non-denominational options.
Right.
So this is kind of a dual question. Where did non-denominational come from? And some people seem to have it grinds their gears a little bit to think of not being in a denomination. Like my mom, right, thinking, oh, you're something. You just don't know what it is. And I'm like, no, I really think we're a non-denominational church. So what is that like? Are people nervous about the structure breaking down? And where does the idea of non-denominational come from? So there
is the technical definition of a denomination.
Okay.
And then there is probably what your mom means by the word denomination.
All right, Brenna, listen up.
So the technical term of denomination, that there is an overarching organizational structure that governs to some degree what a church under our umbrella can be, must be, should be, shouldn't be, those sorts of things. And so it's a little bit the difference between going to buy your groceries at Walmart versus buying your groceries at Harps versus buying your groceries at some bodega that Jim owns.
I grew up going to Wallace and Owens.
Yeah.
I love that place.
Is that part of a denomination?
No, it's still a grocery store.
Just Wallace and it's just this family owns this grocery store and you buy your groceries there.
Yeah.
Or you can go to Harps, which is kind of a more regional, or you can go to Walmart, right? They're all grocery stores and they have some things in common and they have some things different. Okay. But whether or not we are part of a larger governing body is what makes you a denomination or not.
Okay.
Which even things like Church of Christ then become kind of, they like to say that they're not part of a denomination, and they're really not so much, really kind of this overarching Church of Christ national headquarters, those sorts of things. But they are more loosely connected based on certain theological principles. But on down, Catholics, Baptists, Lutherans, there are governing organizations that, to varying degrees of control or hands off, provide some structure, accountability, and leadership for the church.
Okay.
The church is not independent. And even within those, there'll be some diversity. Like the Catholic is high control. You go from you end up in a strange town and go to the Catholic church, going to be like, yeah, okay.
Still the same.
Yeah. 99% is going to be the same. Southern Baptist churches have a lot more autonomy. And like, say, the difference between, say, Southern Baptist and Methodist church is like an individual Southern Baptist church will own its own building and its own property, but a Methodist church,
does not.
the organization owns the building and the property, those sorts of things. And so in that sense, your non-denominational churches are not a part of a legal structure. The Grove Church, there is no legal structure outside of the Grove Church itself that provides any governing accountability or leadership or input into it is
outside of our church.
It is an independent organization. Now, what most people mean then is, but you get what you do and
from
what
someone
you
else.
believe. You didn't just make it all up on your own.
Right.
You have a history, a tradition that comes from somewhere. And so in that sense, yes, this was a church planted by Fellowship Bible Church of Northwest Arkansas, which in and of itself does not technically belong to a denomination. And the founding pastors of that 35, 40 years ago or whatever came from University Baptist Church in Fayetteville.
Really?
And kind of were looking to kind of break free from some of the restrictions that the Baptist church has and just kind of had a different philosophy. And so launched from that into a church in Rogers. And so it had the people that started it have a Baptist background. And therefore, by extension, so do we.
Yeah.
But that does not make that church a part of the Baptist denomination.
Yeah.
It just means theologically and in practice, there is some Baptist influence over how the church is done. So if your mom says, are we a part of a denomination? The answer is no. It's like, what denominations would you say have had the most influence over you? Would probably be Southern Baptist. But we have chosen to not be Southern Baptist for these reasons. We don't want to be necessarily a part of that overall governing structure.
So do you think people who find that not uncomfortable in a bad way, but it just feels like uncomfortable because they're unfamiliar with it?
Yeah, I think a lack of familiarity, and then also it can kind of maybe feel like an unhealthy independence or arrogance that may come from it, because there is some truth to that. There is some mutual accountability, like we talked about. I'm going to come to this church and kind of willing to submit to its leadership. Should your church then also be submitting to a greater leadership to kind of provide that level of structure and accountability?
Well, we do have that. You have the elder board,
and but again, it's internal.
Okay.
And so there is some wisdom in that, and so I understand where that comes from. So then, us as a church hearing from influences outside of our church is more. It's on us to do it.
Yeah.
But I would say now in the internet age, with the proliferation of books and podcasts and all these sorts of things, it is easier than ever to be a part of a group of like-minded people who can provide encouragement and accountability than certainly it has ever been.
Yeah. You just threw two questions into my mind that's not on my list. One, so are you saying like, you're saying you could go to any town and the Catholic Church would be the same? That's because like the Pope is telling them all what to do?
Well, to be a Catholic church, there is an agreed upon structure.
They have to do certain things.
Yeah, there's just certain things that in order to be a Catholic, this is what makes a Catholic church a Catholic church.
Okay.
Again, it's not going to be 100% the same everywhere. There'll be some pockets where things will be different, and every church is going to have a different flair, but it is very, 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 very similar. But you could say, hey, you're going to go to a Southern Baptist church, and it could be like you just walked into 1955.
Okay.
Pipe organ, three-piece suit, and you walk into another church, Southern Baptist Church, and it would seem very similar to us. There's a full band, and the pastor's wearing jeans, and
Yeah.
there's coffee in the lobby, and
Yeah.
it seems pretty chill. There's significantly less structure over how we do the service, but there will be a lot of unity around what we believe, which again, Catholic Church may be different. Like the individual Catholics are less concerned that we all believe exactly the same thing, but we have these very sacred practices.
Uh-huh.
And the Baptist denomination would be the inverse of that.
Okay.
We don't necessarily care about how the service is run. Baptism is obviously very important. It's in the name.
Mm-hmm.
But then theological beliefs are way more important than the structure of the service itself.
Okay. Someone the other day was trying to tell me the attire for something, and I had on like some cool shoes. I wasn't in like running shoes, joggers, and a pullover and a hat. And they're like, well, just wear whatever you wear to church. And I was like, cool. I'll look like this when I go.
See you then.
Yeah.
Hey, you should wear what I would wear to church. Oh, okay.
Okay, that's better.
Think about what I would wear to church.
Yeah,
wear that.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I was like, got it.
What does your mom wear to church?
Yeah, my mom would never wear what I wear to church.
Right, that's what I'm
saying. Okay, so this is a little bit. Oh wait, no. My other question I had. This is somewhat similar to I can be at church and by myself on a boat, whatever. But with the proliferation of podcasts, books, and all that kind of stuff, how would you instruct someone on balancing? Really be a part of a local church and not just taking in your teaching from just podcasters that you can access, because I've seen that trend kind of like, well, yeah, I like my church, but I really like this podcaster over here, so I just learned from him.
Well, I mean, it is fine to have long distance mentors, but you need to be a part of a community where you are known and you are knowing other people. That's what you can't get from long distance mentors.
Yeah.
That guy may be an infinitely better communicator than your pastor, and probably is. If he has got a nationally known podcast or author, he is probably a way better communicator than the person in the church you're going to. But who knows when you're in trouble?
Yeah. Have you felt that shift?
I think the weirdest thing that I have felt is the number of people who have already listened to sermons and watched services online before they come to our church.
Oh, for us. Oh, okay.
Most visitors have already watched at least one service or listened to one sermon online before they visit the church.
Okay. And that used to never be true.
No, it never was true.
Or wasn't even
so people
possible.
recognize me when they walk in the door,
Yeah.
even though I've never met them.
That's
because
probably,
they have seen me speak.
Yeah. I just feel like that would be like, there wasn't listening to church podcasts when I was in college, but since then, that has been a thing to where I can listen to a sermon online.
And the other thing would be, and I wouldn't say this is not a negative, it is just a thing where it is, there's an expectation that I'm engaging with all the same content that they are.
Right.
Hey, what do you think about this? And it's your favorite author. It's your favorite podcaster. And I'm like,
yeah.
So
You probably never read my favorite Christian author.
Which is?
A.J. Swoboda.
I've heard you talk about him a lot, but no, I have not.
So that would be a hard expectation for me to assume.
Right.
That you've consumed all of his information.
Yeah, but then again, you will still come to me with questions of like, hey, I read this in this book by this guy. I heard this guy say this the other day. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Which usually it's a difficult thing because it's like, here is my understanding of a snippet of one book of an overarching library of belief systems that this guy has. What do you think about this? And so it's like, I'm not, especially it's a little bit like, hey, here's my youngest son. Do you think he is cute? Yes. My favorite author in the whole world. I was listening to him the other day and he said this.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a little bit loaded. It's not that I'm not willing to engage with other ideas,
right, but that they also might not have meant that much by what they said too.
Right.
One line.
Like there's a very popular podcast right now that a lot of people listen to, and I've decided that this particular podcast is a Rorschach ink blot test. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Like the most conservative people and some of the most liberal people I know theologically think this guy is speaking right to them. They hear something about it is very self-validating.
Yeah.
And so people ask me, what do I think about this podcast? I was like, I listened to some of it. I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
I see why some people, it's not that I think that it's harmful. It is just.
Yeah. What I think is interesting, though, is what we were talking about in the previous Q&A is coming under the leadership of your pastor and the leaders that have been chosen for that church, whatever. And I may hear these conversations more. I don't know if you hear it as the pastor, but them saying, well, I don't like what's talked here, but I like what so-and-so says on that podcast. And it's like, well, maybe that's a reason to have a conversation with your local pastor. Yeah. But you should be willing to trust the guidance that he's giving because he's your local shepherd, not this podcaster 2 states away.
Yeah. So then what you're able to do is kind of pick from here and pick from here and pick from here and put it together. And maybe you think that you have some sort of cohesive.
You have Ultron.
But the thing is like those pieces don't really work together. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I believe A and not B, and they believe B and not A, and so I believe C and they don't believe. There's a reason. I'm just gonna pick and put all these things together.
Yeah.
And again, you got to be careful because if you say, well, I'd like learning from a lot of different people. It's like, well, that's a more complicated way of confirmation bias.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to keep listening until I find somebody who firmly believes the Bible, firmly believes all of these things about Jesus, but is also pretty chill, but also has liberal political views and kind of puts all these things together. Because you're kind of this weird amalgamation of different ideas, and really probably one of them in you doesn't fit well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one of you need to squeeze one of them out, but I don't want anything about me to be squeezed out. So when I want to learn about this, I heard from him, and I want to learn about this, I listened to this person, and I've put them both together in a thing that. Yeah. It's not really working when it really would be better to engage deeply
in one
thing and see is there anything in you that needs to be refined? But if I'm just picking and choosing from 5 or 6 different communicators, authors, pastors, then I listen. When I want someone to agree with me on this topic, I listen to him. When I want somebody to agree with me on a different topic, I listen to them.
Yeah.
And I'm not really allowing myself to be challenged in things in my life that I need to be challenged in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is similar in the case of, yes, you can do a lot of things by yourself, but what are you missing out on by not being a part of a group?
Yeah. I think for me, I would encourage people plug in deeply at your church and be a good member there. And if you're going to listen to other podcasts and other teachers, listen to people who will say things that you are more likely to disagree with than agree with. Some people have a good foundation in who Jesus is. Now, I don't ask you to go listen to a Muslim podcast, a Mormon podcast, a Christian podcast with a legitimate view about who Jesus is, who's just a one-off. If you're a charismatic, listen to a non-charismatic. If you're or reverse, a Presbyterian, listen to a Lutheran or something like that, right? Where those sorts of things where I'm allowing myself to be challenged by an outside source. I would not get involved in a church, and anytime you see something, hear something you don't like, seek validation in another place.
Pastor. Yeah. Yeah. That's just a very unique part of our current world.
Sure. And it allows people to not have to be challenged.
Yeah. Because probably they would be
blown away. And then learn
away.
to resent challenge.
Yeah.
How dare he say something I disagree with?
When really it is a challenge, but it could just be so much growth by conversations they could be having rather than just confirmation bias by someone else.
Yep.
All right. I don't know what made me think of that question, but something you said made me think of that. But this is a really big shift.
Okay.
Why is the church called the Bride of Christ?
Well, as with a lot of things, there's just metaphors. Why is God called a father? Is he anyone's father? in a literal sense?
No.
He's, only in the Mormon churches they believe weird stuff like that, where
They do.
That God and his wife had spirit sex and then have spirit babies.
Who's his wife?
It's
not for this podcast.
You can scroll back a few years and find
I guess that's true.
The
that
3-episode run that we did on Mormonism. So he's not really a father. He's not really a king. He's not the king of anything.
Mm-hmm.
He's not he's not a king. He's not a father. And even God is just a word we kind of put together to kind of describe whatever it is. And so he's not a shepherd, but he is metaphorically all of those things. God is a father. In what ways is he like a father? He has not physically impregnated any women to have children, but he is a father in these ways. And so one of Jesus's primary metaphors that then Paul kind of takes up and talks about as well is to use a metaphor where Jesus is a bridegroom and the people that follow him are his bride. It is a metaphor that Jesus came up with, again, that in Ephesians 5 Paul talks about as well. And so it's not just like, okay, well, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It only becomes weird when you say we are his bride in every way.
Sure.
We're not his bride in every way.
Yeah.
And I don't think he would have ever intended that we are supposed to have a romantic sexual relationship with him, but in a way that would have made sense to a first century listener, first century Israeli, Jewish audience. There is a way in which I am like a bridegroom to you. And so there is love there. There is protection and guardianship there. It is a partnership that has a hierarchy, but not a straight hierarchy, and he didn't say I'm your friend. Right. He also did say this, but in this instance, he said, I'm not your boss. I'm not your boss.
Yeah.
I am like a husband to you. And so in a way that really would have made sense to them, there's some really tangible ways that he's describing what he wants our relationship with them to be like. He wants it to be intimate. He wants it to be personal. He wants it to be loving. He wants it to be mostly built around relationship, but with a hierarchy. Yeah. And you might say, well, marriages shouldn't have hierarchies. It's okay. Even if you should say that, you have to understand what he meant when he said it back then. And when he said it back then, this is what
the structure was.
A structure, but the relationship is not built around that structure. The relationship is built around a deep love and connection for each other. But there is a hierarchy, but really the hierarchy that Jesus talks about, that if you think of me as a leader, you think of me as a husband, I'm a guardian, a lover, and a protector, not a ruler.
Yeah. As a single person, and the way that I have heard in every million talks about marriage or relationships or anything that I've sat through, it has been painted as such a set apart type relationship that you can't get. Like, a friend is not a spouse, and a sister is not a spouse, and a parent is not a spouse. It's like so specific that it seems really specific that he described it that way, which makes the church just feel really special. That he gave it that different. That's really good, yeah. Like he could have given it any of those other terms, but like a marriage is a very set apart, special, intimate. I think it's probably a good word for it.
There's a necessary exclusivity to it. Yeah. He doesn't have another bride, and we don't have another bridegroom.
Yeah. And what you said of like the protector, of like knowing how much, like you said, it's a metaphor, but like that is him saying that he's going to be your security guard is totally different from saying he's your bridegroom of it, like protection in that sort of way. That I feel like the times I've seen it, I maybe haven't looked into the deep connection, but it's always given me that imagery that just makes it feel like a really cool, special relationship of something you would want to be a part of, because there's no other context of that relationship outside of the church. Like that's a cool way to like experience that. All right. Well, is your timer going off?
We got some time. We still got some time.
Okay. Because now we're about to head over to my favorite part of the topic.
Okay. Hit me.
You know what a hot part?
I'm ready. Hit me.
History. Okay, so
You're desperately trying to turn this into a history podcast, aren't you?
yeah, I am, and I'm loving it.
But even like in some of these episodes where I've been trying to give you history, you've been stopping like, what do we believe? Well, what's right? That doesn't seem right, though. I'm sitting here giving you a historical background. You're like, that doesn't seem right. I'm like, I didn't say it was right. I said it was the history.
Anything that you say, I'll want to take it a different direction. All right, so I guess you probably start this at any point in history that we've discussed, whether it's a schism or the Protestant Reformation. A lot of things, they seem a little bit more culturally specific why splits happened. Would you say so? Or were they mostly theological splits? Like the big splinters that happened?
The first big one, the Great Schism was a west-east split.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell that it was more cultural because you can draw a border.
Right. But influenced by cultural influences, or did they have like I know there's like Western philosophy, Eastern philosophy.
Yeah, cultural influences. And again, the church was so tied to political power. Like when the Roman Empire was large and expansive, the fact that the political center and the governmental center were both in Rome was totally fine.
Yeah.
But as the Roman Empire diminishes and what would be considered to them East, which for us we'll just say Eastern Europe, Western Asia, that they no longer have much in common at all with Rome.
Yeah, culturally,
and certainly politically. And so as power began to become more and more solidified in Rome, and so then Italian Roman people then are leading the church, there's a certain prestige that they're going to have, influence that they're going to have, privileges that they're going to have. And the more you are geographically and culturally different than that, the more you're going to feel like I'm an outsider, an outcast. I am not particularly understood. So there were some theological differences there, but I would say it was primarily centered around, where does power lie, and do you get us?
Okay.
And so that's where that split was. The Protestant Reformation, I would say, would have been very different in that, most of these guys were everybody here. It was almost exclusively a Western European conflict between Western Europeans. Yeah. All those names that we talked about, including the Pope, were all Western Europeans. It wasn't like that there were, people in Africa that were just like, I think I like Martin Luther. Like, how would they even have heard of Martin Luther?
Yeah.
And so that would have been significantly more theological.
But it did start culturally because of haven't you said like the printing press and like cultural innovation and enlightenment somewhat?
Well, I mean, that was certainly a catalyst for it. The ability to put the Bible into individual people's hands certainly sparked an ability to, I can read and understand this for myself. And so when you say a cultural difference, I mean, what I'm thinking is South America is very different than Western Europe.
Sure.
And so they have different cultures. But if you mean by like the influences that were happening at the time, we're certainly moving into a more individualistic mindset than they ever were. Trust in authority is starting to diminish. Having access to information, we move into what is ultimately going to become an information age, and that I can receive information on a regular basis, significantly more easily, including the Bible. And the more you can think for yourself, and the less political power the church has, the more you're going to have freedom to behave and think differently.
Yeah.
There are times when to not be what we would now call Catholic, for the first 1,500 years in Western Europe, that's all there was. To say I don't believe this anymore could lead to your execution. So once political and religious power start to separate, and now I got access to all the information myself.
Yeah, then it can then it goes in all different
Then
directions.
we've got, and so again, the more freedom a country has,
Mhm.
the more diversity of religious thought that you're going to have.
Yeah.
All due respect to, it seems like we live in a very sensitive world, but there's just a lot more theological diversity about who God is in the United States than say there is in Saudi Arabia.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because political and religious power are separate, and you also just have a lot of individual freedom, and there really aren't what we would call heresy laws in the U.S., but then there are still countries today that do, and there certainly were 800 years ago.
Right. Well, I did a class over the French Revolution, and that was the craziest look at like the separation of church and state. And then the breakdown of how people related to religion once the state let go of religion.
I just reread Tale of Two Cities a few months ago.
That's random. Why?
Which is, I've been.
Isn't that the first revolution?
That's the French Revolution.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it was just I've been reading a lot lately, and it's just I'm just gonna read a classic.
Interesting. I never reach for classics. Well, okay, so let me scroll down a little bit more. Okay, so you did say this actually in the last episode of the church ecclesiology. Yes. Mainline denominations.
Yes.
And I think that's a pastor word that's not known to everyone, including me.
Okay. So let's take Catholic out of it. Catholic's its own thing.
Okay.
So within Protestantism, kind of your high church. Are you familiar with the phrase high church, low church?
Nope.
High church. High church is fancy church. Low church is chill vibes church. So don't think of it as good or bad.
Okay.
So that it's bad to be low church. So the Grove is about as low church as it gets. And then the Episcopal Church is as high church as it gets in Protestantism. Just very, very formal. Within that too, there's just going to be a lot of high governmental structures and organization, very, very well organized. The thing we talked about, you go from one Catholic church to another, you're going to be very similar.
That's high.
This now we're talking about trying to distinguish what is a mainline denomination. The more kind of control the church, the denomination has, the similarities between all of the different branches of it being very, very, very much the same. Those are kind of your mainline denominations. Your Lutherans, Episcopals, Presbyterians, Methodists. Baptists are denominations, Assemblies of God are denomination, but they're both kind of low church and present a lot more freedom. So when mainline church is typically just kind of used for your slightly fancier, more high control churches.
Okay.
And again, a lot of those churches are liberal, and so would not like to think of themselves as controlling, but control in the sense of we expect a certain amount of uniformity even around our open-mindedness.
Yeah.
We are very close-minded about the fact that we need to be open-minded. So it's not about liberal or conservative, even though a lot of them tend to bend towards liberalism. It's more about control and structures within the denomination and formality of the service.
Okay.
So it's just it's just an easy way for pastors types like me to say shorthand for Methodist, Lutherans, Presbyterians, Episcopalians.
Okay. So those are the more structured ones.
Yes.
Okay. But not Baptist and
no.
Okay.
The Baptists are a denomination in the sense that there is an organizing structure, but it is very democratic and independent and a lot more free form than your mainline denominations.
Okay.
And Assemblies of God are the same way too.
Okay.
A lot more open-handed as far as how a church governs itself as opposed to your higher structured churches. So the more structured the worship service, most often also reflects a highly structured denomination, which would then put you in the category
of a mainline
denomination.
Okay.
So
Okay.
mainline is different than mainstream.
Right.
Baptist is probably the largest of all of those. Southern Baptists are. So that would probably
Yeah.
be the most mainstream,
Uh-huh.
but not mainline.
Cultural split, North and South Baptist.
Yes.
Everyone that I've talked to about this since you told that has been just like, it's like one of those things that like you've just always been accustomed to. Like, I don't know, like Kleenex is not the name of the product, you know?
Right.
It's like, wait, what? It's a tissue?
It's a tissue?
Yeah.
Facial tissue. What's a facial tissue?
Like, that's crazy. And so people hearing that Southern Baptist is due to a cultural split is like, whoa. Like, I don't think anybody knows that.
And yeah. It is really interesting. Like, denominational history is really, really interesting. But when you say major splits,
That's not a major split.
That's not a major split.
But
I mean,
it's
the major splits are the schism, the Protestant Reformation, the splits that happened immediately after the Protestant Reformation, which you talked about a couple of episodes. I mean, I would say, the King of England wanted to get divorced and the Pope wouldn't let him, so they created the Church of England out of that.
Really?
Yeah, the king wanted to divorce his wife, but they were controlled by the Catholic Church to a degree, and the Pope would not grant him his divorce, and so they created the Church of England, and then he was able to get his divorce.
He didn't feel like he had enough autonomy to do it just because he wanted to do it.
Like what we've been talking about here. There's just a lot of intermixing of the religious structures and the political structures, and even a king doesn't necessarily feel the full freedom to operate independently when the church also has that level of control.
I know if I was born in different time periods, I would not be me, myself, and I, but I just don't think I would have been a very agreeable person in those times. Like, I'm reading.
You would have learned to keep your mouth shut.
I know, but
you would have just seethed.
Yeah. Like, I've told you I'm reading a book about Christian history, and I talk with ChatGPT, my best friend, as I'm going through it, and it's told me once that seems like I probably would have been an atheist if I lived in Greece during ancient gods.
It'd be really interesting to see if eventually there's going to be cultural splits on what your favorite AI program is.
ChatGPT all the way.
Come on, Google Gemini. Whoop, whoop. All right. Before she says anything else, I got to go. So anyways, thank you so much for some great questions. As always, just appreciate your everything that you bring, your curiosity, and
there's still more.
Engagement. I'm sure that there are, and you're gonna convince me at some point to do a broader church history,
yes, I am.
Christian history podcast, and we can cover all of that then. And thank you also for joining us, and appreciate your listening. And we would love to connect with you as a church. If you haven't, you can find us at thegrovechurch.org. Go to our Connect page. There's a form you can fill out. Let us know you're listening. You have any questions. We would love to meet you on a Sunday. Everything about our church you can find there at the website. And so we would love to help you, connect you any way that we can. And again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Cultivate podcast. Our hope is that you are taking steps to go deeper in your faith, that you are asking big questions and you're looking for answers. We hope that we can be a resource for you through our podcast and any other way that we can help you. You can find all our episodes anywhere that you can find podcasts, including YouTube. And again, thank you so much for joining us.